So this new One Piece chapter just dropped. Huge information revolving around Luffy's Delphoid ability origins from not the Void Century before that, where we get confirmation there has only been 3 Joy Boys in the history of the world, with Monkey D. Luffy, Joy Boy from the Void Century, and an original Nika. We also got Loki versus the Holy Knight, while confirming a big Shanks theory that propelled him to Yonko status, and the fact that Shanks' brother still hasn't taken off the hood while Gonko has, shows that they're really trying to hype up Shanks' brother as the final villain of Elbaf. So let's do a quick deep dive on the latest installment on the One Piece story. The first thing I want to talk about is how they're really bringing in this Nika lore, and they talk about how who knows if he was the savior or the destroyer. All we know is he heralds great change, and the rulers of the day fear Nika's return. We see him have a sword, we see him have a shield. It gives me Skypiea vibes of like the Shandorian warriors, like Wipers people, and it also makes me think of Who's Who and how Loki talked about Nika and how we saw that silhouette there. And Jaru says has all white everything, white hair, white clothes, white cloud. And Luffy says no wonder people say I look like him. And I'm thinking, Luffy, you have his power, you have Nika's power. Luffy is so oblivious to how important he is, and Jaru kind of looks dumbfounded. But when Jaru actually sees Luffy's power, that's when he's gonna realize, oh, you are the man who's gonna herald great change, you are the man of the prophecy. And it's gonna be insane when this all happens on Elbaf. We finally understand why the Holy Knights were looking for Loki, and it's gonna shock you that they're asking Loki to join the Holy Knights. You know how crazy that is? Because how the Holy Knights are celestial dragons that look down on humans. Like you saw Figurland Garland, the former Holy Knight commander, saying celestial dragons who treat regular humans like normal are worse than scum. So to see them ask Loki to join, I don't think it's actually fully asked him to join. I think it's the same thing with York, how like York was going to be a celestial dragon, and now we're seeing with the whole situation of Loki. I think they're really bullshitting. They just want to use his power because it's so valuable and so overpowered when it comes to the final war. Loki of course says no and makes fun of the celestial dragons, calling them scum. And then Shanks' twin brother asks for intel on Loki, and Gonko says all the informants were killed by a giant crow. So it's showing that they've been scouting this guy ever since. Like, they must have heard some crazy things from Elbaf, his lore, Big Mom trying to get him on the crew, and now Shanks stopping him. It took Shanks stopping him, and Shanks becoming a Yonko because of that. So they really want Loki to be on their side, and Loki of course thinks he's the sun god Nika of like whatever they believe in Elbaf. So it's gonna be insane how this actually progresses in the story. Yep, and speaking of Shanks, like I mentioned, Shanks stopped him 6 years ago. Loki went out to sea, and he went out as a pirate, and Shanks stopped him 6 years ago, and that made Shanks a Yonko. And it makes sense because Loki's bounty was 2.6 billion, so Loki had to do some crazy things when he's out to sea. The fact that he offered Luffy when he first met him to destroy any crew shows that Loki's very confident in his skill against other pirates. I think Big Mom, Kaido, and Whitebeard knew about Loki at sea too. They knew, okay, this guy's actually a problem, and he's trying to go for our status as Yonko. And Shanks stopping him elevated him to Yonko status, which was cool. Maybe Loki became a Yonko. If that would be crazy if Loki was actually Yonko and Shanks defeated him. But regardless, Shanks defeated him, brought him back to Elbaf, and locked him in the underworld. And the world government recognized him and said, yeah, you are Yonko. So I think it's cool, and seeing Shanks come back recently and talk to Loki and use his Kankataki, there's definitely something between Loki and Shanks that Luffy needs to find out, and that's why I like Luffy's curiosity. Luffy's super curious, it's just a naturally curious guy, so I like it here. And I feel like Blackbeard's curious as well, but Blackbeard's more logical with his curiosity, while Luffy's more, it depends how he feels, and Shanks makes him feel good. He wants to see Shanks again, so that's why he's curious. We even see Roto explain how everyone wants to be their sun god Nika and Elbaf and rule the world, and it starts an argument. Some say he's the warrior of liberation, some say he's more like a warrior of destruction, some say he's also the warrior of laughter. Like, for all we know, all those things actually applied to him. Like when we saw Luffy first use Gear 5 on Wano, he was laughing, he was liberating, and he was destructing. Like, he was destroying things. So I think they all apply. It all depends on perspective, and perception is reality. So whoever saw him destroy saw, oh, that's the destroyer. So whoever saw him laughing, like, oh, that's the laughter. And whoever saw him liberating, so that's the liberator. It's all perception is reality when it comes to the world. Jaru then explains a very important information. I think probably the most important information to me personally in this chapter, which I usually talk about the most important information in these chapter videos first, but I thought I would save this one for a little bit later. So Jaru explains that there's this Harley text that's pretty much archaic language, and there's countless of interpretations, and the world has been destroyed twice, and the name Nika is invoked after each instance. So pretty much this kind of confirms that Nika is a Delphi. Like every time the world's destroyed, the Delph has been eaten by someone. Like the Gorosei have already confirmed they've been chasing it for centuries, since the fourth century. So Luffy is probably the next one to eat it, and they prophesied like Odin, Goldie Roger. This has been from time. So the fact that Shanks went and got that Delph fruit as well too, that's a big deal too. Shanks knows about Nika, but Shanks didn't want to eat Nika fruit, not yet. He probably was saving it. All in all, I think this is big for the story and how the world's been destroyed twice. I think that confirms two flashbacks, not just the Void Century flashback, but a flashback before the Void Century that originates everything when it comes to the One Piece powers, hockey, and just the first peoples of the One Piece world. Maybe they came from the moon. I don't know. It has to do with it, but I thought I'd just mention it because Elbaf is giving me Skypiea vibes, guys. We even see a scene of the new giant pirates, Danson, Hyruden, Goldberg. They all tell Luffy that pretty much that Roto is right. That is all their dream, even though they don't like to admit it. Roto is right. They all want to be Nika. And Jaro says Loki is the same way, and which is why he killed Harold to follow into Nika's footsteps. And they say don't defend him. The fact that Loki wants to be Nika and the fact that Luffy is Nika, I for some reason feel like that Luffy can get Loki on his crew, and if Loki's on the Straw Hat Pirates, that's an insane power buff because Luffy, Zoro, Sanji are incredibly powerful. Then you have a 2.6 billion berry giant with a special legendary Delphi on your crew. That would be insane. Or maybe Loki leads the new giant pirates. Maybe Loki becomes the captain and leads them and becomes under his fleet. I don't know what's gonna happen, but Loki, I think he's gonna follow Luffy once he finds out Luffy's Nika. And then of course I can't fail to mention this whole situation of Luffy thinking he's a good guy is like a good hint as well. And they're all like, no way in hell. So I honestly think that Loki might actually befriend Luffy after this arc is all said and done. He gives me Yamato vibes as well. And we learn of this prophecy, which just gives me flashbacks to Fishman Island and Madame Shirley. But we learned of this prophecy of killing King Harold. And a year after his birth, the royal steed, Horse of Fortune, died. And the same year, Jorul died to Big Mom. Y'all see that in Big Mom's flashback. And then a year later, the queen died. Like, it shows that a lot of travesties happen. And at the age of 10, and with his natural strength, he made the underworld pretty much his natural playground. He gives me Kozuki Oden vibes. And they say he was an arsonist as well. He just looks like a bad kid, like just causing problems and mayhem. But whenever I hear things like this, they always end up being good. So the same way Kozuki Oden was causing damage, he became good. I think the same things that happened with Loki. They also mentioned how King Harold was the greatest monarch trying to connect the outside world and change Elbaf's reputation. And Jarl stabbed, I believe Jarl was stabbed trying to stop Loki, but it didn't help. I think the fact that Jarl was still alive, even though he got stabbed in the head by Loki, maybe Loki didn't want to kill Jarl. He has some sort of Delphi ability that like does the thing they did to Jarl's head. And with the whole back to King Harold thing, I wouldn't be surprised if Roger has to do with meeting King Harold back in the days. I think that Roger, some legendary character met King Harold back in the days. It's not just Shanks who came to Elbaf and pretty much is loved. I think there's actually ties there. And back to the Holy Knights, we see Gunko's full design. And I already seen Twitter, the fans are not happy with Gunko's full design. And she starts to get hasty a little bit, and she fights this wolf with her paper powers we saw with Defeat the Giant earlier. And it kind of reminds me of Immu, how it has that arrow to it. So I think that I'm starting to realize the Holy Knights might actually know about Immu, because they did that circle that looks connected to Immu. And then Figure and Garland became a Gorosei without even the other Gorosei knowing about it. I think the Holy Knights know about Immu. And this could cause some issues, guys, when it comes to how the hierarchy is in power is going. So I thought that was interesting, and now it makes sense why Akano told them, "Oh, they went to CP0, they went over your heads." It looks like Immu went to the Holy Knights, who went to CP0 when it comes to Doflamingo, and went by the Gorosei, and that's what pissed him off, and Akano was calling it out. Shanks' brother then gives Loki an ultimatum. We'll spare this wolf, the wolf that Gunko attacked, if you change your mind. And he says that all that it's going to do is fuel my revenge. It's pretty much talking about how a warrior has to die, and pretty much Loki's just a badass. He's just badass. Yeah, he cares for the wolf, but he says, yeah, if that's the case, then he has to die of a brave warrior to see. I think Loki and Usopp are really going to get along because his ideals. Now let me speed run through some of the other details of this chapter. The cover story, it's very ironic, but yeah, I think it's definitely done on purpose. Who's base on Wano. Yamato runs into Who's Who. Now Who's Who is a strong hockey user who has the special powers that CP0 have, but the thing is Jinbei beat Who's Who, so Yamato should be able to deal with Who's Who relatively easier than Jinbei, because Yamamoto's Conquer Saki coding used with Mythical Zone. But I think it's cool how the cover story just got a little more interesting by adding Huzu, if I'm being honest. And Huzu with the whole Nika ties and everything. Oda, bravo, I like it. Jaro, of course, explains to Luffy how humans run from the underworld and never get to see where the Straw Hats are currently at. I believe it's not the Heaven Realm, but they say the Sun World. So I think that's cool how there's like a gatekeeping thing going on in Elbaf, and makes sense why we see not that many humans. And then Usopp out of nowhere says, "I'm the one who defeat Oz," and it's obviously cap, because you helped defeat Oz, but it was a team effort by the Straw Hat Pirates. But him taking all the credit, and Oz is a legendary warrior even amongst giants, so I think Usopp really trying to get the giants' admiration. This is Usopp's arc, so I can't go too crazy with him capping, and he is Usopp the liar, no one the liar. No one was actually a truth teller, but they thought he's a capper. Usopp is truly just a cap star. And then we see the giants tripping over Jinbei's blue skin. They're like, what the hell's over here? The meaning they don't know about the outside world and the fishmen. And then of course Jinbei mentions the mermaids and all that, and Sanji starts rizzing up the giants. Like, we're getting really good moments here in the chapter. Like, we get serious moments, but you also get like really, like, I don't really call it filler, but like I kind of like those filler moments where the Straw Hat Pirates are connecting with the island people. I like those moments. I thought it was hilarious when Roto was apologizing to Nami and Zoro, and Zoro said, "I would have cut your head off, so I should be the one that, like, pretty, how to say this, yo, I wasn't the one in worry, you should have been the one in worry." And the other giants were like, "Yeah, check his bounty, yo, he's not capping." So I thought that was hilarious seeing that moment. I also thought it was very cool how Zoro took Luffy to the corner and says, "You're acting weird," and pretty much tells Luffy that Loki's capping. Have you heard his reputation? But Luffy wants to see Shanks so badly. It shows Zoro's vice captain status, like the fact that he has to take Luffy in and rein him in, kind of like end of Enies lobby when it comes to Usopp joining back the crew. I like moments like this through Zoro and Luffy. I really love it, because their friendship is like really trying to help each other. Like, Luffy tries to help Zoro and Zoro tries to help Luffy. It's always been that since the beginning, when they first met. And then I found it funny that Roto's with Nami, Zoro, and Luffy, because Nami wants treasure from the castle, so Roto's with them rowing. I think that's funny because Roto's actually the same age as Loki. He wants to be Nika like Loki. I think Roto and Loki are gonna have some banter when they do see him. And I thought it was cool. He's like, "Oh, Nami, I'm a navigator." He's like kissing her ass and everything after she destroyed him with Zeus. I gotta give respect to respect is due. Nami is looking better in Elbaf than Usopp so far out of the weak trio. So I gotta give Nami respect. But all in all, One Piece chapter 1136, I enjoyed it. It was really entertaining, and we got huge information on the overall One Piece story. How can I hate on this chapter? And expect some great content, guys. Whoever made it to the end of this chapter video, expect some insane content coming out on this channel. You guys have been supporting the channel. I've been grinding 2025, and you guys have been supporting, so I love it. So yeah,